Hello and welcome back to What Steven Reads. My name is Steven. This is going to be a recap of what reading I did in the past week and some shopping. And it wound up being a week of classics. And I picked up one new classic, and we'll get to that. And I'm going to show you what's in my collection of classics. It's not a big collection, but it's a few books I've accumulated over the past couple of years, and I just wanted to share those with you. So the first book I started reading was by Ernest Hemingway, In Our Time, which is basically a collection of short stories from him. And I wanted to read this book because I did buy another, which we'll get to, and it's a full-size novel. And I said, let me read some short stories by him to see if I like his reading. And I was a little disappointed. I just don't think Ernest Hemingway's style of writing is for me. It could be an indication of the time, of how people wrote back then. Obviously, everyone has their own style, but I just did not enjoy it. The last two stories, called Big Two-Hearted River, there's part one and part two, was basically about a man fishing. And I'll be honest, as I got towards the end of the second part of it, I was really just reading super fast, not absorbing anything. And I guess, that's my own fault, but I wasn't enjoying it. One of the stories was about a woman who wanted to get a cat, and the dialogue is bizarre. And I read the whole entire thing, and I just not enjoyable. And I feel really bad because he's supposed to be one of the greatest American writers, and here I was just completely not interested. There's one part, the dialogue with the woman, where she's like, I want a cat. I want to get a cat. And she's acting like a child, and the husband's being very dismissive. And I just found it very bizarre. There's one story I did like, My Old Man, about a father and son, and he's a jockey. And he gets into some trouble with some thugs, and the kid, they don't say how old he is, but I'm assuming he's got to be probably 8, 9, or 10 years old. And the father takes him to another country to race this horse. And, it has a very bleak ending. And it's just so sad. Like, what's going to happen to this kid? And they're short stories. And they're not complete stories in the sense where you have the beginning, the middle, and the end. The end is, to me, not finished. This is the first time I'm reading Ernest Hemingway, but I don't like his style, and unfortunately, we'll get to, when we get to the collection, my little collection over here, I do have another book of his, so we'll see if I'm going to think differently about that book and enjoy it. I don't know, we'll see. But my reading enjoyment was changed because I decided to read, which I had bought a while ago, Leo Tolstoy's The Death of Ivan Ilyich. And I absolutely loved it. I think his writing is amazing. And it reminded me, not the style of writing, but he's a Russian author, and in The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgaov, there's lots of Ivans and Ivanich and all these very similar names. So it just brought back some memories of reading The Master and Margarita. I really enjoyed these stories. I didn't read all of them. I'm still going through it. This book I bring to work with me during downtime. It's a lot easier than reading a novel that you're getting heavily into and, get interrupted or whatever the case may be. The first story I read was The Two Old Men, which I loved. It was about two men, probably in their 70s, and they want to journey to go to a house of worship. And one has money, one does not. They're both good people. You see their interaction with their family, and they set off on this journey, and one keeps walking ahead because the other one just had to stop and was looking for some water to drink, and happens upon this family, and most of what would have been part of his trip is wound up spent with them. And then they do eventually meet back at home in their village. I feel like the story, I think of The Alchemist by Paul Coelho, which I did not like. And I know it's supposed to be very inspiring and, I don't know if I want to say borderline religious, but I feel like Tolstoy did it in far less pages and got the message across about being a good person. Whether you're religious or not, it doesn't matter. And Paul Coelho, to me, I just did not enjoy The Alchemist. I just feel like the message that Tolstoy was trying to convey in the story of the death of Ivan Ilyich, just it got that across. And the two old men. I highly recommend this book, and you can really breeze through it or just stick it in between your other reading. I think you'll greatly enjoy it and appreciate it, and definitely get the message out of it. And the death of Ivan Ilyich is about a gentleman who passes on, and you see his friends, they're more concerned with who's going to get his position and then everyone else in line to move up the ranks. And then it's a recap of his life. And some of it is sad, some of it is, very respectable on his journey for his career and his relationship with his wife and his kids and just this determination to succeed in life. And, it's a question of, is what you did in your life, did it make you happy? Was it worth it? And just a great message, I think, a great story. His prose was understandable as opposed to Ernest Hemingway, and I definitely recommend this book. And I went out and bought something else by him, but we'll get to that in a moment. So yeah, definitely check out The Death of Ivan Ilyich and other stories, which I can't wait to get to the other ones. I'm sure they're fantastic as well. Sorry I'm so fidgety. Anyway, my main read this week was Rebecca by Daphne de Maurier, and it was recommended to me by Paula Reads on YouTube. Check her page out. And this was on my radar for a while. I was thinking about it because I was looking for something autumn, fall related, and it definitely has those vibes in it. Then I kind of forgot about it, and Paula Reads had suggested it, and I had shown it a few weeks ago after I had purchased it. And I love it. Her writing is fantastic. It's flowery, and I hope that's not an insult because I've heard it used before for another writer. I mean flowery in the good sense, and literally, because there's a lot of descriptions of flowers that's on the property at this big, beautiful mansion of the man that the narrator marries. But her writing is beautiful. It's very poetic in a sense. The story is definitely gripping me. And I'm not done yet. I'm about, I would say, 40% into it, just because I've been reading other stuff, the other two books I just mentioned. So I can't wait to get through it. I will talk more about this book once I'm finished. And then I do want to say one thing that I find very interesting, and I noticed it by chapter 3, is that you never hear the narrator's name. And there's obvious reasons to that. So yeah, we'll get into that next time, or when I finish reading this book. And it's a quite lovely cover and very nice edition. The pages are high quality. This one is from Back Bay Books, a publishing company. And I don't know what the photo is, if it's just a model or if it was from some current movie or newer movie that was about Rebecca. I hope not, because I don't like books that have covers from movie adaptations. I find that annoying. So yeah, check out Rebecca, Daphne de Maurier. I highly recommend it so far. So this week we went to an independent bookstore in Northport on Long Island, and we had some lunch, and very lovely store. It's called the Northport Bookshop, I believe, and it's very small. I guess most independent bookstores are small. Very nice inside, very cozy feeling. Being an independent bookstore, 1/3 of it were books for adults and I guess young adult. 1/3 was for children, and there were kids there doing some kind of reading or something like that. And then 1/3 was devoted to a gallery space in the back. I would have liked to have seen more books and not the gallery space. Decide what you want to be. You want to be a bookstore, you want to be a gallery. And I just took a quick glance at the paintings, and I was like, yeah, no. I wish there would have just been more books, because I really couldn't find much of what I was looking for. And I'm not saying I expect to see every book from every author, but there's stuff that's out right now that I didn't see, stuff that's been out the past 3-4 years I didn't see. would have nice to see more classics, because that's what I was kind of keeping my eye out for. But again, very lovely store. Would I drive out there to go again? No. I mean, Northport is worth visiting for lunch or whatever, you know, you want to go do out there. I don't know how many restaurants are in the area. Shopping, I didn't see a lot of shopping really. It's just a cute little neighborhood in Northport, Long Island, if you want to check it out. Buy a book, of course, just because I want to support local bookstores, independent bookstores, and I picked up The Road by Cormack, McCarthy. And I'm not going to talk about this or even read the back of it because we're talking about classics today. And I don't know where this falls along. I didn't look on Goodreads to see what classification of genres it falls into. I believe it's postmodern, but again, I really don't know. Don't listen to what I'm saying right now. So we'll talk about that another time. So these are the few books that are in my classic section in my bookcase, and just take you really quickly through them. So, and you know, it's not a haul, but I guess it is a haul because I'm showing you a pile of books that I have purchased them at one time. So here we go. I went ahead and organized them by publishing companies, just because they look nicer. Otherwise, it's just a big mess up there. And these are signature editions, Union Square and Company from New York, and I have 3 of them. And the first one is The Metamorphosis and Other Stories by Franz Kafka, which I have read. I read it in high school. It wouldn't hurt to read it again and then read the other stories. So, Ernest Hemingway, The Sun Also Rises. I don't know. I'll try it out. I'll see if I enjoy it. But if the writing is anything like in Our Time, the collection of short stories, then I'm going to have to DNF it. But the cover is very lovely. And the first one I bought from this series, The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. A great story. Faustian bargain story. Conflict within story. It's basically about a very good-looking young man, and there's a character that, to me, comes off very devilish and kind of, I don't want to say corrupts him. I guess in a sense he does corrupt him. He's just doting on him in a grotesque kind of way. So basically, Dorian Gray, I guess at some point in the book, makes a wish to stay, you know, beautiful and handsome forever. And the other character that we meet first in the book is a painter who paints this picture of Dorian Gray. And everything that Dorian Gray does that's bad is reflected in the painting, as well as aging. And Dorian Gray just remains this very good-looking young man, and you take it from there. Definitely worth a read. The writing, especially from the Lord, I forget his name, he just goes on and on and on. He just drones on and on. And I was getting a little bit irritated here and there with his dialogue. But besides all that, it is a great story. And I love a good Faustian bargain story, which one day I really have to get a copy of Faust and read that. I don't know how long it is, if it's a big giant book or a quick read. But yeah, I definitely want to get into that. Then I have 2 books from NYRB Publishing House. Don't Look Now by Daphne du Maurier, which we talked about a couple of videos ago. I have not started it yet. I want to finish Daphne first, and then we'll get into this. And Stoner by John Williams, which is a classic, which I've heard them say they started reprinting this, and it became a hit. It's basically about the life of a man, and it starts off in university, and then he gets married. It's just basically like a very long, think of it as a vlog of his whole entire life. So I, heard that this had cool, just chill vibes. I don't know if it's sad or if it's uplifting, I don't know, but it's definitely a book that I wanted to check out. And they really are just beautiful looking copies. I just think they look fantastic. And I love the combination of blue and orange. Blanche. Then I have my Penguin Classics, which I have the most of. At one point, I just wanted to start a collection of the Penguin Classics. And then I was like, yeah, but I may not get around to reading them. So I kind of said, let me just focus on classics I do want to get, which is why I started buying the other editions, from other publishers. And I think the signatures just look really cool. But here's my little collection of signature classics. So we've got Jorge Luis Borges, The Aleph and Other Stories, which I've already talked to you about that. It's kind of on my currently reading list, but not really. Then we've got Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. I just thought that was nice to have. I will get to it one day. And I've always loved that story, every movie iteration of that, including The Muppets. The Portable Edgar Allan Poe. I have a big, giant book upstairs of Edgar Allan Poe stories. And I saw this, and I said, oh, this is a nicer one that you can actually take out with you. So I picked that up. And then Bram Stoker's Dracula. I have another copy of Dracula as well, a hardback. But again, they're just smaller and they're nicer and compact to just throw in your bag or your car and take with you. Robert Louis Stevenson, The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and Other Tales of Terror. I picked that up. I've never actually read the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But again, it's that battling story of inner evil and good. Kind of, Picture of Dorian Gray, not so much good and evil story, more of a Faust story, but there's still that inner turmoil of good and evil, and I love a story like that. So this is definitely something I want to get to sooner than later. John Steinbeck, East of Eden, and I bought that because first I had read Cannery Row, which I talked a little bit about. Basically, it's a book about people's relationships and their lives. There's no plot. It's just a beautifully written book. John Steinbeck's prose is amazing. I think he's fantastic. So because of this book, I ran out and got East of Eden. And I can't wait to get to it. Again, once I find someone I really enjoy reading, I try to go through their whole catalog of books, like James Baldwin. So I got, these are my Penguin Classics. And I bought this beautiful copy of The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck. It was an anniversary edition, and I just think it's gorgeous. 75th anniversary edition. How cool is that? Love that. And it's a hardback, and I just like having it in my library. And another book from him that I cannot wait to get to. And I have Gabriel Garcia Marquez, 100 Years of Solitude. I just heard this talked about so many times. I'd gotten into magical realism, and he's often referred to as coining the term and starting the whole magical realism, which is basically just fantasy, but I guess it's just set in a little bit more reality where things are just slightly off. I don't know. So I bought that. This copy I ordered online. I wanted to get it from a real bookstore, but everything had Oprah on it, and I don't like books that have Oprah on it. I hate any books that have those fake stickers. This one at least says winner of a Nobel Prize. But if it says Reese Witherspoon or Oprah on it, I don't want that in my library. I don't even know if I have any. I got to take a look and see if I'm not going to throw them out, obviously. But I was very happy to get this copy. The only issue I have is, I don't know if they call it deckled pages. I'm not a fan of deckled pages, but whatever, it's fine. It doesn't say Oprah on it, so I'm okay with that. Then a book I highly recommend, The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgaov. Just an awesome book, crazy, bizarre. Premise of the story, which we've already talked about. The devil comes to Moscow with his array of bizarre characters, a talking, more humanized giant cat, more like a mafia-looking dude, somebody in a creepy, I just imagine looking like a creepy, dirty clown costume with pointy shoes and a pinchette. I forget what they call it, one of those one eyeglass that they hold up to their face. Just totally eerie characters, and lots of Ivans in this book. I have two copies. This I've explained since, 97, 98. Finally got around to reading it 2 years ago. And then recently I picked up this copy. I just think it's a beautiful cover. That is the reason why I picked it up, but I made sure that the translator was different because I am going to get around to reading this again and see what the difference is between the two translator. This one is translated by Diana Bergen and Catherine Tiernan O'Connor, which I have heard is one of the best translations of The Master and Margarita. This one is translated by Richard Pavier and Larissa Volokonsky. And there's a foreword by Boris Fishman. I don't know who Boris Fishman is. But yeah, I'll get around to it eventually just to see if there's any differences in how they, translated it. I have no idea. But the cover's great. And I'm never going to get rid of this one. I'm sure they still sell it if you wanted to look at it. Or at least a copy translated by Diana Bergen and Catherine Tiernan O'Connor. Then the book I've already shown you a couple of weeks ago, Joy it's a Selected Stories, Covert Joy by Clarice Lispector. I want to check out her writing, see if I like her writing style, and then maybe get some more books by her. And a classic, I don't know if this, probably modern classic, right? I don't think it's classic as in how old these other books are. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I bought this copy. I did not read this copy. I read a copy back in high school. And there's all these books that are classics that are required or recommended high school reading. And adults read them too, but they're considered young adult nowadays because they're easier to read and comprehend. I don't know, but it's a classic, right? Became a classic years and years later. Was not a hit at the time. And then I believe during World War II, they sent the troops copies of this book. And then it caught on back in the States. And that's how it became more famous than it was at the original time of publication. And I think that's amazing. And that's also what determines a classic. It may not have been so relevant and thought about at the time, but as time goes on, they become more popular, either encapsulating a feeling of the time it was written in or reflecting on the current time. And yeah, I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to read it again. And then I did find a copy in a thrift store, which is the original cover rather. It's a hardback. I'm sure it was made in like the 90s or 2000s or something, but want to have a copy with the original cover. And last but not least, James Baldwin. I guess these are modern classics. First one I read was Giovanni's Room, and love that cover. He did paint that. It's a self-portrait. Giovanni's Room, talked about that. Everyone's talking about Giovanni's Room the past couple of years, about a young man whose girlfriend has temporarily left him, and he meets another young man. It is a queer book written in the 50s or 60s. And it's amazing that this got published to me, that it was available for people to read, which I guess is a reflection of things were changing, Great story. And then after that, James Baldwin, Another Country, just a great reflection on a bunch of people's lives. White, black, male, female, artists, musicians, an actor who comes back from France, straight relationships, gay relationships, all the way down from the village up into Harlem. There's parts of the book that take place in France. It's a beautiful book. I thought this was going to be my favorite. So far now, Another Country is my favorite. I love this book. And then I bought Go Tell It on the Mountain. I don't know much about this book, but I will get to it eventually, as I am just a huge James Baldwin fan now. And these are the two books I picked up this week. So I bought another Leo Tolstoy book because I love his writing. And it's called Resurrection. It's about a man who... It's kind of starts off in a court, I believe. And he's part of these people that prosecuted a woman. And I think he feels guilty about it. And he winds up trying to save her. And she's sent off to Siberia. And he's trying to protect her and help her. I don't know. I don't care. I'm interested in his writing, so I will definitely read this, and I'm sure I'm going to love it. Even if the subject matter isn't up my alley, I just, if you like a writer, you're kind of up to reading anything that they write about. It's how they present the story to you, so I'm excited about that. And then I was like, you know what, let me get another Mikhail Bulgakov book. So I found Heart of a Dog in Barnes & Noble. Look how skinny that is. This is going to be a very quick read. This hilarious, brilliantly inventive novel by the author of The Master and Margarita tells the story of a scroungy Moscow mongrel named Sharik. Thanks to the skills of a renowned Soviet scientist and the transplanted pituitary gland and testes of a petty criminal, Sharik is transformed into a lecherous, vulgar man who spouts angles and inevitably finds his niche in the bureaucracy as the government officials in charge of purging the city of cats. That's Mikhail Bulgakov. I don't know if this came out before Master and Margarita, but just check out something that he's written. He's just out there, totally wacky and cool. And look at that cover. How freaking cool is that? Great illustration. A cover design by Evelyn Kim. Illustration by Mark Burkhart. Very cool illustration, Mark. All right. So those are the only 2 books I bought this week besides The Road. So that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you like this video or my past videos. And please leave any comments of classics that you think I should pick up. Or give me some advice on Hemingway. Maybe there's a different book that I might enjoy a little bit better. Maybe we'll get back to doing a vlog next week. We'll see. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Take care and have a good week. Bye-bye.